Welcome officially to the Indie Author's Guide to a Standout Amazon Listing with Elizabeth Lyons. Now, before we get underway, I just want to thank my sponsor this month, which is Tertulia. If you haven't heard of Tertulia, it's a pretty nifty service. Those of you who subscribe to my Bottom Line newsletter probably remember that I did a test drive of this. It's for building author websites, and it's one of the best website builders I've seen out there. It's geared specifically for authors, and it's by people from the book publishing art community. So there's some really nice alignment there with what authors are looking for. And this month they are offering, because they're a sponsor, they're offering an exclusive offer for people who read my newsletter and follow these sessions. Just make sure you use the link here on the slide if you want to get that 30% off. It's a pretty reasonable cost. I believe the yearly cost is around $100. So it's a really great deal, and their service really is top notch. For those who, but I'm all about fairness and transparency. There is one other service that I think equals it. It's by BookBub. If you go look for the BookBub author website builder, it's also quite good. Um, but Tertulia is my sponsor, so that's why you've got the link to them today. So thank you, Tertulia. Now, on to the main show. We've got Elizabeth Lyons. She is a book coach who helps authors write and publish their work. She herself is the author of 6 books, and she has a podcast, Write the Damn Book Already, which is delightful. And if you haven't checked it out and you're a podcast listener, you'll want to see some of those recent episodes, especially if you're interested in this topic. I think you're going to be interested in some of the podcast episodes that she has done recently. All right, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to pass things over to Elizabeth, and I won't be interrupting unless there is a burning question I feel like needs to be answered.
All right. Thank you so much, Jane. So today's session, I just want to give a high level about what it's going to include and what it's not going to include. But we're going to go through an understanding of how your Amazon listing actually works for readers and for Amazon's algorithm, which is something I didn't fully understand until several years ago. And I find that a lot of people don't think in this way, which is why it's more important than ever to understand. And we're going to talk about a clear framework for improving your visibility and sales. Here's what we're not going to do. I am not a believer in magic bullets, never have been, don't think I ever will be. So I want to be very clear that there is not one thing that I believe you can do as an author that will immediately just make your sales go bonkers, despite what you may hear elsewhere. We're not going to talk about any kind of keyword stuffing or any other hacks or gaming of the Amazon system. There is a lot of talk about doing stuff like that. I'm not personally a believer in it, not saying it's wrong, just that's not where we're going to go with this. There are some caveats that I would love to make you aware of before getting started. Every mistake, see the air quotes I mention, I've made. So there's no judgment of any of this. I know it because either I've done it or many of the authors with whom I've worked over the past 9 or 10 years have made this mistake. There are few, if any, hard and fast rules beyond put your best foot or your best book forward, be patient, be persistent, and be kind. This is such a great space. And also, I don't know how I forgot to say this, but Jane, thank you so much for having me. And for anyone who joined here from my link who is not yet following Jane, follow Jane. She's a remarkable human and an incredible source of insight, which most people here undoubtedly already know. I'm going to stay pretty high level in the interest of time and let the questions at the end dictate where I go a little bit more in depth. I could spend 40 minutes on each one of these topics individually, so I'm going to stay up here. There are no bad or silly questions. If you have the question, someone else or someone's else undoubtedly have it. Please don't be afraid to ask it. I am a tortoise in the author space. What this means is I am a firm believer in going slowly and methodically in order to have long-term sustainability in the space. I am not someone who's interested in a super high spike and then never selling another book. So just keep that in mind as we're talking through all of this. I am also a big fan of air quotes. You're going to see them a lot, and the M dash. I don't care what AI says. I love the M dash. I'm loyal to the M dash. So Let's jump into why your Amazon listing matters more than you think or more than you might think. For most independent authors, so either hybrid published or self published, the amount of time that we spend writing our books looks a little bit like this. And the amount of time that we spend on our Amazon listing looks like this. A lot of the time because we just don't know what to focus on or we don't have full control. So there may come some questions later. What if I'm hybrid published and I don't own my Amazon listing? Feel free to put those questions in the chat. Why does this matter so much? Your Amazon listing is more than separate pieces. It all works together, which is why just changing one thing isn't likely going to be the thing that creates long-term longevity and sustainability in terms of visibility and sales. It's how everything works together. And these are the things of which I speak. Your cover and title, your categories, your keywords, your book's description, and your A+ content and reviews. So I'm going to tackle all of this. When these elements all together point to the same topic and the same reader, Amazon gets confidence and shows it more often to the right people, it's a chicken and egg effect because the more people it's shown to, the more people purchase it, the more people review it, and therefore the more people it's shown to. So that's where we're trying to go, all of us as authors, in the long term. So the way I like to think about this, I'm a pretty visual person, is if you think about a big box store and then the department of the store, and then perhaps even the aisle of the store, and then the shelf. Where does your book sit in that entire ecosystem? So for best long-term visibility, again, pretend we're in a store. So we've got the department, which is kind of your categories on Amazon. This is how I think of this. Then we have what shelf are you in, which is dictated in large part by your 7 keywords. And I want to be clear that when I talk about keywords for the purposes of this webinar, I'm talking about the 7 keywords that are chosen when you list your book on Amazon, when you upload. I'm not talking about your ads keywords. I'm talking about the 7 that you put in each of your versions listing. So your paperback listing, your ebook listing, and if you have one, your hardback listing. The shelf, we could even substitute aisle for this, is also your description helps with that. And then going down a little deeper, we have A+ content, consistent sales, and reviews, both the number of reviews and the content of those reviews. Those all play more of a supporting role. How Amazon thinks about books, a lot of people, and I didn't know this until several years ago, Amazon is the 3rd largest search engine in the world behind Google and YouTube. The 4th is Pinterest. So it's helpful and important to think of Amazon as a search engine, not so much as a bookstore. What Amazon cares most about in the long term is relevance. So does your book's content match the keywords, categories, and ultimately the search terms that the readers are inputting when they're looking for something on Amazon, but they don't know yet what they want? So when a reader knows what he or she wants, they're likely typing in the title of the book or the author name. But when they know they just want a book about personal development or a rom-com or a historical fiction novel, they may not know. They're searching, much like you might do when you're in a bookstore or on Amazon. Amazon also cares a lot about sales consistency. So if you have super high sales on a Monday and then you don't sell again for 30 days, the Amazon algorithm takes note of that. The algorithm would prefer, it would appear, that you sell 1 book a day for 30 days, then 30 books in 1 day, and then no more for the next 29. Consistency in reviews is important, as is the quality of those reviews, meaning that you don't have 100 reviews and your average is 1 star. and sales behavior. So, do clicks turn into purchases? And in this instance, it's more important if someone knows exactly what book they're searching for and they go out and they put in The Business of Writing by Jane Friedman and it pops up at the top as it would be expected to do, and they click on it and purchase, that's great. If what's even better is if someone goes out and searches best books for, writer, business books for writers, and they look through some of the options, then they click on Jane's book and then they purchase it. That is a great signal to Amazon that that particular search phrase is a good match with Jane's book. So great writing alone doesn't solve discoverability, nor does a great cover. Covers are and can be important, and I love a good cover and a good title as much as any, but I'm probably more. But it doesn't solve discoverability because we don't think of books in the same way. We're not all walking into a bookstore anymore, more than likely. Sometimes, of course, we do, but when you just have that little thumbnail, it's not so much about that as it is about it popping up at the right time for the right searches. So the first thing that we're going to dive into here, but keeping it at a high level for now, is categories. I want to offer you a different perspective on categories. To be clear, categories, when you upload your book to Amazon or when your hybrid publisher does, you get to select 3 categories. You used to be able to select up to 10, but that was getting crazy and people were gaming the system like crazy. So they've narrowed it to 3. And some people really overthink this, and some authors don't think about it enough. Categories are about placement, not popularity. So this is about making sure that if you are selling soap at a big box store, that you clarify to the manager of the store, this product needs to go in the beauty section, not the electronics section. At the highest possible level, even if electronics are all the rage right now, you want to be clear about what category your product actually fits into. Apparently, I said that twice. It's that important. So the biggest mistakes that authors make, and again, I made them, is their ego, without realizing it, has greater weight than reader behavior. So they might say, I want to be in women's women in business, or I want to be in rom-com, as opposed to where is your ideal reader actually searching? Where's the right place for that to be? And thinking that more eyeballs means more sales. So, but that's a much bigger category. So won't more people see my book? No, not necessarily, because now you're a smaller needle in a bigger haystack. Little known fact, some categories they're called ghost categories. I call them ghost categories. Other people call them ghost categories. What that means is that you can't self-select them, or you can select them, but they aren't actual categories. So it's like saying that there's a section in the big box store, but when you're a shopper, you're walking around the store and you're like, I can't find the section. So that's something that I encourage authors and myself to avoid, are these ghost categories. Some are duplicates, which means that if you're in that category, you're also automatically in another category, which is not a bad thing at all. Kind of gets you a 2-for-1 deal as long as both categories are relevant. Some can't be manually selected. And these are the really big categories. A great example is health and fitness. So as a top level category, an author cannot self-select that when they're uploading their book to Amazon. If their book does well enough, and I can't define what that is because I'm certain that it changes hour to hour, but if it does well enough in one of the subcategories underneath health and wellness, Amazon will automatically roll your book up to be included in the global health and wellness category, but you can't self-select that. You have to select something that's underneath that. So let's talk again about some mistakes. Putting your book into the wrong category to gain bestseller status. This was a rampant practice, and I'm still surprised how much it's recommended by some people. Again, I'm not here to say that anything is right, wrong, good, or bad. I absolutely know, I'm completely confident that this does not work. And it creates longer term issues that are harder to recover from. So, what this would be is someone would say, my book is a I'm going to just do crazy hypotheticals, is a rom-com set in Maine, but there's a category about knitting, like, and it's not even fiction, it's just knitting or macrame. But there are only four books in that category. So I'm going to put my book in that category because I know if I sell one book, I'm going to get that new release tag, and I'm going to screenshot that and I'm going to share it to everyone. And I'm going to say, oh my gosh, I'm number one in new releases. That, without going into the weeds of it, creates all kinds of confusion for readers, specifically for Amazon, which is a lot more difficult to untangle yourself from and back out of. So I don't recommend doing that. Again, chasing prestige instead of relevance. So wanting to be in those bigger categories. Being invisible in a massive category is worse than being visible in a smaller one. That's the biggest takeaway. And if you need to explain why your book fits into a category, it's probably in the wrong category. So, how do we identify the, see the air quotes, best categories? First of all, don't overthink this. Truly don't overthink this. Just be relevant. Sometimes you can come up with 10 categories that would all work, and you've got to just grab the three most relevant. Sometimes it's a stretch, specifically in nonfiction. It can be a stretch to find a category that fits, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I can only find two that make sense. So you're stretching a little bit to find that third one. Ask yourself, do my categories match my main keyword theme? Again, we'll get to keywords next or in the after that, but you want all these things to work together, not mutually exclusively, not independently. Would my ideal reader browse this category? So going back to that previous absurd example with the knitting, if someone's looking for a rom-com set in Maine, I mean, they're probably not in the knitting category. You could make the argument, well, maybe they like knitting too, but that's setting yourself up for crazy making. Does this category reinforce but not confuse my book's promise? So again, we're looking for all these things to work together. It needs to make sense that your book would be in that department of the store. Okay, so let's talk about keywords quickly. Categories and keywords are the two topics I'm going to cover today that are challenging to give examples, or I'm going to highlight some attendees' books here in a bit with permission. I don't have a way to do categories and keywords because I don't have a way to see what categories an author has put themselves into. I can't see their keywords at all. And I can only see what categories Amazon now has them in, which, by the way, are often not what you put them in. So if you have questions about that, be sure to put them in the chat. Those questions are common. Again, I'm talking about your 7 keywords that you input when you load your book. So the job of your 7 keywords is mostly to help Amazon. It's to help Amazon understand what searches your book is relevant for. So these 7 keywords are not visible to readers in the sense that the 7 as a list is nowhere. Like, it's sometimes when you're looking at a blog, it might say this blog entry is categorized under these 3 categories. There is no such thing for keywords on Amazon where it will say this book is categorized for these keywords. What they do is they help Amazon understand the relevance of your book, connect searches to your book. And it's important to know that clarity beats cleverness. So we need to think about keywords like scientists, not like creative people. This is where we turn on that different side of our brain, and we take away all the creativity that we probably use to work on our book and we have to get a little more scientific and factual. So your 7 keywords help visibility when they're visible via your description, your reviews, possibly your A plus content to signal both reader and Amazon at the same time. I hope that makes sense. Let me clarify a little bit. So again, they can't see your 7 keywords, but when any or all of your 7 keywords are used within your book's description and or your reviews, which you don't have a lot of control over, but we're going to get to that, and or some of your A plus content, which even though they're graphics, and I know a lot of people might be like, what is A plus content? I'm going to show it to you and you're going to go, oh, I didn't know that was called that, but you know what it is. Because they're JPEGs or PNGs, they can be scraped, if you will, by Amazon so they can see what text is on there. And when all of those things come together into this nice package that can be tied up with a bow and it all looks like it goes together and makes sense, that's a great signal for Amazon that helps them show the book to the right people. So each keyword of your 7 should cover a different reader intent. For example, and when I'm working on uploading my own books or working with authors on their books, this takes several hours this is not as simple as, okay, 7 keywords, self-help, figuring out my life, what is happening. It takes time to figure out, let's take out the word best and let's substitute that with what will be most effective for getting your book the visibility longer term that you're looking for. So a problem-based search, people might be going in, how do I fix my marriage or the like? How do I switch jobs? Genre or subgenre. So especially if we're in fiction, contemporary romance, romance set in Maine, World War II historical romance, that sort of thing. Friends to enemies. So tropes come in. Friends to enemies, fiction or romance. So trope or experience. Setting or time period, World War II, historical, modern day, all those. There's so many, especially in the fiction. You undoubtedly know this if you're a fiction author. The list of categories, some of them I'm like, how is that a category? But it sure enough is. Reader identity, if relevant. So sometimes there may be LGBTQ search specifically, or indigenous people, all how the reader identifies and or what they're looking to read about is, especially if it's a huge component of the book or a component of the book, then that will work well as a keyword. So it's very helpful to identify phrases, not just high-level words. Again, I've got some examples here. So self-help is a high-level word. A phrase that has greater intent is burnout women entrepreneurs, dealing with burnout as a woman, handling midlife as a woman, perimenopause. I mean, that's my current search is all about that. So what are the specific searches that your ideal reader are putting into the search field when they don't know exactly what book they want? Another example, romance, very broad, versus military second chance romance. Ineffective keywords. Okay, so fancy industry terms humans don't use. And it makes sense why people would use this. One example potentially is inner child. People understand that term a little bit better today because it's being talked about all the time. But previously, it's like no one goes on to, well, I shouldn't say no one. For the most part, people don't go on to Amazon and say, help me identify my inner child. They'll say something else that's a little bit more human. So insider language, referencing other authors' books or titles, very common misstep. It's first of all, it's not allowed. Like your 7 keyword, if you're running Amazon ads, which is totally different, you can use these in your ads as keywords, but that's not what we're talking about. For your 7 keywords, one of the rules is do not reference another book title unless that book title is an actual search phrase for the subject of your book. So if you're writing rom-com, do not put Emily Henry or Emily Giffen or Colleen Hoover. I don't know if she's considered rom-com, but Colleen Hoover in the as a keyword. Obvious or qualitative descriptors. As of recently, you don't want the word book. That's somewhat new, I'd say in the last 12 to 18 months. Because your product is a book and is therefore being loaded into the book section of the ecosystem, the book section of the store, Amazon already knows it's a book. So you don't need to further reinforce that it's a book. And you also don't want to say things like best selling or best ever or best, anything that's superlative in like that. Minor rewording or purposeful misspellings. Again, that works. Another topic entirely can work for Amazon ads if a word is commonly misspelled, but you don't want to do it with your 7 keywords because we're being scientific here and we're telling Amazon exactly what sorts of searches your book should be returned for. And then descriptors such as on sale, Kindle, and again, best selling, none of that is allowed. It's also just a waste of, not only is it not allowed, but it's a waste of space because it doesn't help Amazon help you. Words already in your title or your subtitle, those are automatically keywords for you, for your book. So you don't have to duplicate it and waste space by doing it. Same with your author name. If you have co-authors, like anything that's listed up there in title, subtitle, author name, those are already keywords that you have. You don't have to reinforce them in your 7. So the actionable takeaway or an actionable takeaway is label your 7 fields before filling them in. So you could have one field be your problem, one your subgenre, one your trope, one your setting, one your specific solution. There are ways to scientifically, methodically, I should say, think through what am I making sure that you're covering each area that can help Amazon know where to put the book and to whom to show it. How to identify the best 7 keywords without guessing. Phrases, not single words, will get you a little bit more bang for your buck because Amazon will move those words around in a phrase to come up with one that matches what people are searching. There's an Amazon search bar autocomplete feature, which you may have noticed when you type a search yourself into Amazon, it will pull up kind of a box of suggestions, and they're different softwares that you can get that will show you competition and frequency and all that sort of thing. But the way that, especially if you're in an incognito window, what Amazon shows you to be the autofill helps let you know, clue you in to what some of the most popular searches are. If you start typing romance and then space F, it'll probably say romance female or romance 4. And you can use those as indicators of what some of the more popular keywords are that would be relevant. It's always going to be the number one caveat for your book. A keyword search tool like Publisher Rocket, which is owned by Dave Chesson at Kindlepreneur. Undoubtedly, many of you are familiar with that. It's what I use. It's a fantastic tool. You don't have to have a tool, but they exist. There are others. There's another called eRank that make this a little bit easier. Study the top books in your niche. So it's just that. If you go and you look at their listings and see what keywords are in your niche that are selling well and consistently, as best you can tell, and see what keywords are in their descriptions, see what keywords are in their reviews. And you won't know what keywords are in their 7 keywords, but just see what words they might be using that you think, oh, I didn't even think about that as a potential keyword. It helps to just jog your thought process. So if the same phrase is repeated across multiple listings, it's usually a sign of strong reader behavior, not a coincidence. So authors are learning from other authors who are already having strong sales with certain keywords. The key with this, no pun intended, is do not panic. You can change your keywords anytime. I don't recommend changing them more than once every 90 days. Every time you change your keywords or a keyword, Amazon has to go back into a learning phase. So if you are constantly changing them every day or every week, it's like Amazon can't make it work. So we have to let them go for a period of time, but you are not married to the ones that you input when you initially get started. Over time, as more and more reviews come in for your book, you can use those reviews to help you identify strong, relevant keywords. If a lot of reviewers are saying some of the same things and they're unsolicited reviews, that's a great indicator that that search term would probably work well or be a good contender for you. Okay, so book description, which again, this is sort of the shelf. Like, which shelf is it on? Is it on the right shelf? The role of the description is it helps the reader make a decision. It confirms what the cover and or the title promises. And Amazon, it's important for Amazon because it mirrors the language readers will later use in reviews. So when these things all start to line up, it builds the confidence of Amazon in terms of who to show the book to. It also reinforces to Amazon what the keywords are signaling because you can have those 7 keywords as long as it's still natural in your book description. And I encourage authors to do that. Your book description does not have to be verbatim the back cover of your book. It can be the back cover of your book expanded a little bit to include more information than you could fit back there and also help in with your knowledge that Amazon is a search engine in addition to being or more so than a bookstore, but also a bookstore. So a strong description helps Amazon validate its placement. So it takes category and it takes category over here and the readers it's showing to over here and it kind of builds that bridge that says, yes, all these things go together. And it really helps readers easily click add to cart. It's not the first thing a reader's going to click on. They're going to click on the title. Maybe they see the cover. Something's going to grab them first if it's a cold discovery. But then that description combined with the reviews usually is going to help them know, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. Add to cart. Amazon and readers get confused when a cover signals one genre, but a description is written like another. I'm not in this workshop going to go into cover and when one of the first things, and I have no doubt an AI question is going to come up or has already come up, but one of the first things that AI will suggest that an author do if they're not seeing the sales that they want is change their cover. That's actually one of the last things that I recommend an author do, provided they've put some thought into their cover to begin with. But if the cover looks like it's a thriller, but it's actually a historical romance, that can create confusion in the reader's mind, which means that they click on it and then they don't buy it, which tells Amazon that all these things don't go together. When the keywords focus on one problem, but the description focuses on a different problem. That's also confusing. All right, I've lost myself here. Okay. And when the reviews mention themes the description never addresses or that are wildly different. So again, maybe the reviews say, this was the best historical fiction novel I've ever read, or, oh my gosh, this really helped me get my sugar in check. But the description says, this is a book about, I don't know, paving roads in Kentucky. When those two things don't go together, everybody gets confused. So if Amazon can't tell what shelf to put your book on, it won't push it very hard because it's trying to figure out Amazon books are a loss leader for Amazon, but Amazon still wants to sell them for that exact reason. So Amazon is going to push the ones that they are confident are going to get sales as opposed to the one where they're not confident. They're going to kind of like lay back a little bit until they get more confident. Readers skim the description. You probably do too. So having them formatted correctly having your paragraphs broken out, having bold in your description. Those elements help tremendously. Not only it look professional, but also it continue to keep the reader reading. So for reader attraction, clarity beats vague inspiration in your description. Lots of times I see descriptions start with things like, this powerful book will change your life, or after reading this book, you'll never need another. That is too vague. You will be inspired. You will be motivated. You will laugh out loud. Like we need, the reader wants clarity. So avoid excessive credentials. This is especially true with nonfiction, and especially upfront. There is a place for this, and it's important, which I'm going to get to in a minute, but it should not probably be, I don't like the word should. It's not helpful when it's the leading thing, because the reader, if they don't know who you are and they don't have confidence yet that they want to buy your book, they want to know how this thing is going to help them, not who you are. Who you are is part of it, specifically in nonfiction. But if you have excessive credentials, your origin story, why you wrote the book, etc., the readers tend to lose interest a little bit more quickly. Focus on not summarizing your book, but using your book to intrigue. If you're like me, I know we're all so tired of the social media. Like, you have to have the right hook. There's a reason people keep saying that. And there's a reason that we all, if we're on social media, do gravitate towards certain reels or posts. And it's usually because the hook grabs us. The book description is no different. We get very insular and very emotional about our own book descriptions. And we forget, and I'm absolutely using the word we here, I'm absolutely included in this, that other people are looking at it and thinking, who is this? Should I buy this? They don't have the same emotional attachment to ourselves that we do. Often not considered for Amazon's algorithm, to help Amazon's algorithm, is your back cover and your book description do not have to match exactly. I mentioned that previously. So you can have more in your book description than you have on your back cover of your book. Got to move this over. Work your 7 keywords into your book description as long as it still sounds natural. Talked about that already. Work your categories into your book description as long as it still sounds natural. You don't want it to sound completely doctored. And make sure your description is formatted professionally. So consider including a bold headline, review or reviews if they're from notable sources. That sort of thing really helps. It really helps. A simple description audit you can do in 1 minute. I forgot an opening parenthesis. That's going to drive me crazy until I get off this slide. Review your description and answer the following questions. Is it properly formatted, including bold and bullet points, if bullet points would be applicable? Do the first 2 lines clearly reflect a reader problem or desire? Can a stranger tell who this book is for in under 10 seconds? Is the language concrete instead of inspirationally vague? So if you go through and you do that simple audit, it can help you identify where you could potentially up-level your description a little bit. Does the description sound like a human recommending a book? Which is helpful if it does. Oh, let me go back. Okay. So for a couple of attendees here, we had Terry Case with Tiger Drive, which is a novel. The reason I wanted to show you this is a properly formatted description. So we have spaces between the paragraphs. It's easy for someone who's skimming. You can see these reviews down here, which is helpful, and it can add to the keywords. Layered characters, relationships, those are all keywords that someone may be searching for. And then she starts up here with an Amazon review, and so you just got some meat that brings them in. Also, we'll talk about this more in a minute, but Terry has 139 reviews with a 4.5-star average. So that's going to immediately build credibility with someone who finds her book. On the flip side, I'm sorry that I asked Jane for all these suggestions, because every one of these books went into my Amazon cart, but it helps a reader look at it and think, I think this is done well, and I might enjoy this. So another example, Echoes of Malice, the Matt Riley series. What I wanted to point out about this that even though we're not talking in depth about covers, I really love is that it's a two-book series. So I've put these both of these books here. You can tell that they go together. So you can tell that it's a series, which actually does help signal Amazon when there's a series to recommend both books. He's also got the the space between the paragraphs. I'm not, what I want to be careful of is I could say, oh, it would be helpful if there was some bold, if there was a little, if it was a longer description, if maybe it started with a bold kind of a intriguing question. But that's not me saying this book will sell millions of copies tomorrow if you change those two things. And because this author didn't ask me for my opinion, I don't want to give it unsolicited. I just want to, even though I kind of just did, I just want to use this as an example of, so you understand what I mean when I talk about formatting. This one, Everyday Epiphanies by Alicia Rodriguez. So Alicia has multiple books out on Amazon. Completely subjective statement. All of her covers are incredible. If I'm not mistaken, Alicia's with She Writes Press, which is a renowned hybrid publisher. They're very well spoken of. And she's got great formatting here. She's got her bold in here. We'll get to reviews. I would love to see this book get more reviews. And then we have 99 Fire Hoops by Alison Hong Merrill, which is also fiction. I happen to love this cover. I believe this is also with She Writes Press. And I apologize if I'm messing up. Oh, well, it is. We have proof of that right here. I'm not 100% sure on Alicia, but I think Alicia's done a couple different. One was with She Writes Press and one was self-published, and then there are two others. But this, I want to be, so there's a new paragraph here, but there's not a space. So this is a little bit cluttered. Alison, if you're here, I am not by any, no panic. I am not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting that this would sell better if you had a paragraph. I'm just pointing it out. You've got a lot of great reviews, averaging 5 stars. And I'm going to reference this book again when I get to A+ content. So here we are with A+ content reviews and pricing. So this is the often overlooked shelf or often overlooked area. A+ content, I probably should have put this in. If you're wondering what it is, just hold on. It does not vastly improve search visibility on its own, but it does reinforce keywords, description, and categories, and it visually signals readers and helps to support conversions. So because it's a free thing to add and anyone can add it, I don't think it's a bad thing to have in your listing. Reviews are often overlooked because authors are thinking, I just need more reviews, which is understandable. But the content of the reviews also comes into play because they help to persuade readers. They help Amazon best place your book. And while you can't control them, you can sometimes influence them. If someone says, I want to write a review, but I just don't know what to write, it's entirely okay to say, well, I could send you a couple suggestions, which you have put keywords in that make sense and sound natural to help them help you. And then pricing influences perceived value and reader expectations, and a mismatch specifically within your niche can confuse readers and weaken your alignment. So pricing is a topic in and of itself because it often becomes very genre specific, especially when we're talking about ebooks. Reviews provide reinforcement. So they persuade readers and they teach Amazon how to describe your book, meaning who to show it to. Amazon analyzes review language. So repeated phrases help reinforce the keywords, the categories, and validate the placement and to whom Amazon is showing your book. Misaligned reviews create confusion and weaken confidence of everyone. And again, while you can't always control reviews, when you can, it can be helpful to try to do so. So reviews naturally reinforce your listing for readers and the algorithm instead of contradicting it. That's what's most important. So I've looked at Joyce Reynolds Ward. What I wanted to call attention to here, and I'm trying to be careful because I wasn't asked by any of these authors to provide insight. So this is not emotional. This is just what I'm seeing. The ebook and the paperback for this book seem to have different covers. That could be something that is confusing to a reader. Um, we so zero reviews. Any review we all get reviews one at a time. So I know it can feel overwhelming. First go for 5, then go for 8, then go for 10 and onward. The paperback is a little bit high, and I don't know what the printing process of this book is. If it was offset print, there may be a reason why this is a little bit higher, but it's a little bit high compared to other novels. And so that combined with no reviews and differing book covers. Also, fourth thing is that the publisher is noted as Joyce herself. So it's a clear signal to readers and to Amazon. These are all signals. And there's sometimes signals that authors don't know to even consider. And so I encourage authors to take them one at a time, not be overwhelmed, just take them one at a time and know that you can slowly move. There's no deadline here. You can slowly move yourself into the only way to go is up. So you can move yourself into a better position. This book, A Mirage in the Memory, I am highlighting because for a lot of reasons. Let's look at description. We've got a bold up here, and it's an intriguing, bold call out. The format is great. It's commensurate with competitive, if not low, frankly. Most paperbacks are somewhere between $13.95 and $16.95, so it's a little bit lower, which is fine. And she's hiking up there, or he, I'm sorry, is hiking up there with, I was looking at the woman on the cover, with reviews. So with a 4.0 on Goodreads with 34 ratings. So this is just an example of like, well done. This is A plus content. If you've ever scrolled an Amazon listing and you scroll down and you see a bunch of graphics, so this is the Amazon or the A plus listing for 99 Fire Hoops by Allison Hong Merrill. Again, because this is sometimes people will have graphics, sometimes they won't. Sometimes it's just text. She's got her book reviews in here. Sometimes if you've received like as she has a Kirkus review, that will go in. That helps to build credibility. And each of these things, each of these words and phrases feeds into the overall ecosystem and algorithm that Amazon uses to show it to the right people. So two quick extra tidbits before we wrap up and go into Q&A. I'm a little scared. That can increase visibility and sales. If you're writing nonfiction, your author name is part of the trust signal, especially for nonfiction. So readers who don't know who you are going to subconsciously ask, why should I trust this person? Amazon tracks consistency of author branding. So it doesn't mean that your credentials have to be everywhere. Remember before I said you don't necessarily want to lead with them, but it does mean that you need to have consistency. So having your credentials toward the bottom, or perhaps it's in your author name, maybe it's MD or PhD or LCSW or something of that nature, absolutely helps to put all this together and let Amazon and readers know that you can be trusted. So make sure that your author name and your bio reinforce the topic and who your audience is for the book. When it comes to fiction, especially if you're writing a series, which it seems like a lot of people here are or have, series data affects how Amazon groups and recommends your books. So series info helps Amazon connect related titles, improve readership, read through. So if you're doing KENP, if you're enrolled in KDP Select and you're getting paid per pages read, it helps to improve read through, and that therefore helps Amazon to recommend sequels, especially to people who are reading in digital format and they get to the end of the book and they're like, I'm going to need part 2 of this. Missing or inconsistent series info breaks the chain. And it just limits visibility. It doesn't ruin it, but it limits it. So if your book is part of a series, make sure Amazon knows that it's part of a series through your book description, through the book 1 of 2, which several of the examples that we saw had. Make sure that Amazon knows that. Okay, here we go.
Here we go. We're going to start with the most upvoted. which is the myth that has been dogging me in these classes for 15 years now. I wonder what you think about this.
Mhm.
I've heard Amazon won't put your book in front of anyone unless you have at least 50 reviews. Is this true?
I, in my experience, that is not true because I'm that's not my experience, and that's not the experience of the many authors with whom I've worked. To me, how do I say this delicately? There are there are instances when there are people who are selling a product or a course, and I sell products and courses. That's not the issue. But the issue is that sometimes it is proposed that this is the one thing you need to get your book going. You need 50 reviews. You need 100 reviews. And my product can help you get that. Now, their product may be absolutely fantastic, and it may help you get those reviews. So that's lovely. The challenge is that people will be disappointed because they'll go, well, now I have 102 reviews or 57 reviews, and now I'm still not selling books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer.
So, yeah, I've heard so many different numbers cited, whether it's 50, 100, 60, like every number I've heard it. And I have not, I mean, obviously having more reviews is helpful generally. It does a lot of things
Yes.
for you, but I don't think
Yes.
something magical happens behind the scenes at Amazon where the sales just start coming in or a
Correct.
switch is flipped. I don't see that happening.
No.
All right.
No.
Kindle Unlimited. For people who have their books in Kindle Unlimited, for those who don't know, that's the exclusive ebook borrowing program. Like if you have your ebook in KU, you cannot sell it elsewhere. For those in KU, do pages read count toward the sales consistency you spoke about?
So this is a topic where I'm actually going to be honest enough to say I don't know. I don't know how well that works. It is my understanding that as pages read increase consistently, the ebook version will be, again, it just feeds the algorithm. So the ebook version will likely be shown to readers who favor ebooks and who are searching for books like yours, like of that genre. To what degree? I don't know.
Yeah. I know it has an effect. I just don't know what that
Yeah.
effect is in relation to a unit sale.
Yeah.
All right. We have another question about how many reviews you need to enter the algorithm, but I think we've answered that. Um, what if you have some good professional reviews, like a Publisher's Weekly or a Kirkus, whether you've paid for it or not, and maybe a handful of good customer reviews? How do you think that affects things? Do you have an opinion on this?
So I really love this question. Again, the high level is I don't know, but my experience is that a Kirkus review or a Publisher's Weekly review, even if paid for, in the industry, we often know that indie authors can now pay for those reviews. Readers don't. Readers also don't always know what Kirkus even is or Publishers Weekly,
Yeah.
but it does signal them in some way that the book has been done, see the air quotes, well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's been edited, it's been properly formatted, it's probably got a professionally designed cover. So it's a it is a helpful signal. Do I encourage authors to spend? I think Kirkus right now is about 400 or $500 for an independent review. Do I think that that will make, like, do I say absolutely you need to do that? No.
Yeah. I'm on the same page there.
Okay.
All right. Idell says, my books are in different genres. So how does this affect things for me?
So this is an interesting, I'm working on two novels and two different, well, not, I'm not working on the second one, but I'm going to be in the same boat. It used to be, especially in the traditional world, that agents and editors would say, you've got to stay in your genre because you're building a readership. And then when you write in a different genre, you've got to start all over. Then people started to break that mold. And the most notable, I think, to me was Colleen Hoover because
Mm.
she went from romance and then thriller. And she kind of said, I'm going to do what I want to do. And kind of to me proved that you can. As long as you know, as an author, that some of your readers will come from one genre to the other and some won't, and you will have kind of a mishmash on your email list potentially of some people who like romance and some people who do not want to read about a serial killer, then just create all day and just know that. I think
Mhm.
so much of this world is about having your expectations set properly and not making assumptions about what will and won't work. Just make it work for you.
Don says one of his books is a glossary for Agatha Christie books. And he says that cozy mystery readers are his audience, but of course, Amazon for a glossary or any dictionary or reference book, I think, puts him in criticism. So what does he do?
Boy, that's a great question. To me, it will consistently come back to probably what's happening with Don's book is that Amazon doesn't have enough reader data yet. I'd be intrigued to know how many sales there have been and how many
Mm,
reviews there are and that sort of thing. Amazon doesn't have enough data, so they're not necessarily putting the book in the category that Don believes it should be in. They're automatically putting it in the category that they believe it should be in based on metadata, which is
mm,
keywords, categories, et cetera, and who's buying it.
mhm.
And so if all that data signals to Amazon, this is a reference book, it's going to put it in reference no matter what you tell it.
Yeah. I wonder if keywords would be helpful there. But yeah, that's
Yeah. And time. And I know everyone hates this, but it's like it's a patience and persistence thing. It's this is why sometimes, well, okay, next question.
yeah,
I
I
could
hear
go
you.
on for a while about what I was about to say.
Okay, at some point during the presentation, you mentioned that even if you choose your three categories and you think you've nailed it, Amazon will helpfully or unhelpfully recategorize what you've done. So what do you do when that happens?
There's not a lot you can, first of all, don't overthink it. So a lot of authors I talk with will are panicked because they've put
Mhm.
it into three different categories very mindfully. And fast forward 3 weeks, they're like, why am I in money? Why am I in that? And we just only have so much control. So if you've tried to put your book in a specific category, but Amazon has moved it or made a different decision, um, sometimes it's just the patience of waiting for the sales and the buyer and the key, waiting for all that to come together.
Yeah, back to the patience piece.
Back to, I know everyone's cursing me, but that's just,
Okay. I think we're now at the top of the hour, and I want to be
Mhm.
respectful of everyone's time here. A lot of the questions are extrapolating further on some of these issues, but I think we've gotten the major ones nailed. And this has been so valuable, as
I
Elizabeth.
hope so.
Thank you so much for addressing, I always call this the product foundation. Like you need to get the description and the cover and the pricing and the reviews all working together, as you argued. It's nothing in isolation. It has to interrelate
Yeah.
before some of the other opportunities you might be pursuing will actually be effective, whether that's advertising or appearing in the media, because you want people
Yes.
to land on that page and it inspires confidence. It matches expectations. Just like it makes it easy to say, yes, I'm going to buy this. So thank you.
Yes, the foundation is so incredible. I mean, I get it. I'm an author too. Like we want to put that book out and we just want it to go, what? But getting that foundation, taking the time to get the foundation properly set makes a huge difference in the long term.
Yeah. All right. Everyone,
Thank
those
you
who
so
are,
much.
yes, my pleasure. Thank you all for joining us for today's class. And I hope to see all of you again next month for my business clinic, which is actually about if you're doing well as a self-published author, should you even consider going traditional or getting an agent? So we're going to tackle that situation. Thank you again, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Bye bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.